James Rhodes, welcome to Beyond Stage Fright. You're a pianist with a little bit of an unconventional approach. You're the first classical pianist to be signed with Warner Brothers, the world's largest rock label, and you've also let go of the white tie and tails concert, preferring to perform in t-shirt and jeans, and also giving concerts in some non-traditional classical venues. How has this less traditional approach helped you as a performer?
I don't know if it has. I think in many ways it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to stand up on stage and chat to the audience and talk in between pieces and remember dates and anecdotes and facts, and then sit down and play, 30,000 notes from memory of a Beethoven sonata, and then stand up and talk. And my deal with the whole white tie and tails thing is I don't see any valid reason for it at all, other than reinforcing this awful idea that somehow classical music is superior to other genres and it's slightly, up itself. So I wear what I'm comfortable in, not to prove a point, just because I'm comfortable in it.
And does that help in itself?
I think so. It's certainly easier to play when you're just wearing a t-shirt rather than wearing a kind of quite a tight jacket and having it be choked by some weird white bow tie. I think people make far too big a deal of dress code and everything else. They just wear what you're comfortable in, play what you're comfortable in, and that's it. It's as simple as that. The only thing that must never change, as far as I'm concerned, is the music itself. So no dumbing down, no editing, no taking bite-sized chunks, and just keep the music absolutely core classical. Everything else, lighten up a little bit.
How do you prepare for a performance?
How do I prepare for a performance? It depends on, I guess, what kind, a proper concert or a recording or doing something on TV. For a standard concert, I choose what pieces I'm going to play, and normally now you have to do that even a year in advance, it's so weird. I get, an offer from abroad and, next July, and they say, can you let us know what he's playing? I don't know what I'm going to be playing in a year. I mean, it's weird, but I choose the pieces, and then I suppose it's like an actor, you practice, you rehearse, you make sure the memory is there, and I suppose the most important thing for me is to have run-through concerts. So just to one or two people, everything changes the minute someone else is there. It's the weirdest thing. I still don't understand it. I still can't explain it. But I can be on my own in front of a piano and playing absolutely brilliantly. And then nothing will have changed other than a few people will be in the same room. And it's a completely different performance. Nothing else has changed. It's so weird. I don't understand it. So the more practice I have playing in front of other people, the better.
Are there any routines you have before or after a performance that help you?
Oh man, that's such a weird question, because then you get into the area of, strange OCD-like superstitious. No, I don't. I breathe and I relax, and I'll maybe have a cigarette 45 minutes before, and that will be that. And but no routines, because the big problem with routines is that what if you're suddenly in a place where you can't do that routine? And then the world will end and everything will go horribly wrong. So no, for that reason I don't. I just think it's easier not to.
What would you say are the biggest pressures you have as a performer?
For me, the biggest pressure is memory. It's the one thing that can create nerves and anxiety. The idea of remembering 100,000 notes, not just in the right order, but with the right finger and with the right relationship to the one coming before and the one coming afterwards, and the right pedaling, and that's quite a daunting prospect. So I suppose memory is the big one. I mean, really the only one that I struggle. Everything else, getting out on stage, I love the music. I mean, God, what's not to love? Chatting to the audience, I love. Even turning up to the hall for the first time and rehearsing, I've always had this moment of thinking, this is what, when I was, 7, 8 years old, I used to dream I would be doing for a job. And now here I am, testing the piano and warming up and sorting out the lights, and I love it. But as far as that big question, am I going to remember all of this? Is it going to go, am I going to really screw it up? Is there going to be a memory lapse? And then it spirals out of control, and I can get terribly nervous.
So why do you play from memory?
It's a good question. I've been thinking about it a lot. I don't do it to prove a point. If I felt I needed the music, I would play with the music. I just think, for me, it's easier to be more kind of submerged in everything if it's from memory. Because, of course, playing with music brings new problems. You have to get a page turner. What if they screw up? What if you suddenly get lost from your place in the score? And, it can cause all kinds of problems. I think if you're going to use the music, you have to practice using the music. And preferably, you have to practice from scratch. So when you're learning it for the first time, you use that score. I like the challenge. I like the idea that, if you were going to see a tightrope walker, you'd feel a little bit more impressed if the girl or the guy had no safety net underneath, wouldn't you? You just would. And I quite like that idea of kind of, even though I can get quite nervous and quite scared of meeting that challenge head on and saying, you know what, enough already, I can do this and I'm going to do it. If I was guaranteed that I would not forget anything, I don't think I would experience a day's nerves in my life. You see all these interviews where people say to these hugely, hugely talented performers, household name performers, how do you deal with nerves? And they always say something like, prepare as much as possible. If I know I'm prepared, I'm going to be fine. But that means nothing to me. How do you know you've prepared as much as possible? You can't possibly know. It's a ridiculous thing to say. When do you know you've prepared enough? You don't. You can't. So I can prepare technically, and if there are certain areas that, I know that 5 times out of 10 I'm going to fluff the notes, I can make sure that I've got that absolutely nailed down and that, I can play it 10 times in a row without messing up the notes. That's on me, and I can do that. But you can't prepare for walking out onto a specific stage in front of a specific audience at a specific time at some point in the future. You can't do it. You can do as best you can, I guess, and practice in front of people, but there's always going to be something slightly unknown and something that you can't prepare for.
How do you manage those nerves when they come up?
Drugs, mainly. Lots of drugs, all kinds of huge cocktails of psychotropic medication. I don't know. It depends. The worst bit is always just before the concert. And it's strange, isn't it? The minute I'm on stage, it's usually fine. There might be a slight memory fluff, and then suddenly my heart rate will increase, but generally it's manageable. How do I manage it? I try and breathe, I try and relax, I distract, I crack jokes with my manager if he's there, and generally just try and remember that the audience is on my side, they're coming to have a good time. No one's coming to just really find fault and criticise and have a really shitty evening, are they? They're coming to enjoy things. And also, I guess most importantly, I have to remember that it's not about me at all. The more I remove myself from the equation, the better it is. All I really want to do is go, listen to this stuff, listen to these unbelievable composers, Beethoven, Bach, Chopin, Rachmaninoff. Christ, listen to that! And get me out of the way. And then it's kind of okay. It's not about me and, oh, how impressed were you at that, and did I do well enough? It's just about revealing this music to people who may not have heard it, and hopefully having something to say with it.
How do you keep your focus when you're on stage?
That's not such a hard thing to do. It might get harder as I get older. It suddenly occurred to me the other night. It might be harder to focus for longer as I get older, but it's so lovely being able to just lose yourself in the music and focus on that it just seems to happen. And occasionally I'll be distracted, or there'll be random thoughts coming in, or a mobile phone will go off, or there'll be a cough or a hearing aid, or but generally it's easy enough just to they say in that really hippie-ish mindfulness stuff, just focus on the breathing. For me, you can just focus on the music and the note that you're playing right then and there, and somehow then everything else just disappears.
Have you had times where you've been thrown by the mobile phone or the rattling program?
Yeah, I've had all kinds of weird stuff happen. I've had lights falling down in the middle. I've had babies crying. I've had mobiles going off and people answering. That's just the funniest thing ever. All it reminds me of is that we mustn't take it so seriously. So what? Calm down. A phone goes on. No one's going to die. This isn't, surgery, or it's just a job. It's meant to be having fun and enjoying things. If things mess up, it really doesn't matter that much, I don't think. I've seen things mess up on stage with music, with magicians, with actors. It really doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world if someone forgets a line, or a trick doesn't quite come off, or, there's a small memory lapse in a piece. It's about being there and experiencing something live, as opposed to listening on your, iPhone on the morning commute and not really being present. It's about the whole event for me.
Would you say that the pressures of performing for you come more from inside or outside?
Oh, inside. Oh, Christ. The pressures from everything come from inside. No one would be saying to me the things that I say to myself. But that's just the way I'm wired. I don't think that's particularly unique or different, or I know it would be the same with any job. When I used to work in the city, or I used to work in Burger King, it was the same. I would be, oh my God, I've got to get it right, and it can't mess up. That's just the way I'm wired. And it's that weird thing of knowing that I'm never going to be happy with how I play, and just having to accept that. And realising that after a concert, even if 90 people come up to me and say that was absolutely fantastic, all I'm going to be thinking about is the slight, tiny things that only I will have heard that need to be better for next time. But, so what? We all have our stuff, right? So the pressures definitely come from me, from inside.
And how do you handle criticism and praise?
The goal for me, and I'm nowhere near there yet, is to be immune to both criticism and praise. So someone can say that's the greatest concert I've ever heard, and I can smile, and that's that. And they can say that was the worst thing I've ever heard, and I can smile, and that's that, and move on. And it's hard. We all want to be liked, right? We're all a little bit needy. And again, it's not unique to... I really, really, really hate this idea of talking about, our creative process like it's some freakish, genius, shrouded secret. I'm like this when I'm dating a girl, or, I'm like this with my wife, or with friends if they don't reply to a text that I send them, quickly enough. I get a bit needy and a bit panicked, and that's just me. I'm just a bit messy like that. And it's the same with music. I want to have praise, and often I do, and sometimes I have criticism, and, so what? It really, I can't allow it to have too much meaning.
How did you handle the sudden rise to fame and recognition a number of years ago?
I don't think that has been. I don't know, I find it weird, this idea of kind of overnight success or sudden rise. It's, I've been obsessed with this for years. I, studied every day, 8 hours a day for 5-6 years when I came back to the piano before I had my first proper concert. And so I've been obsessed with music since I was 6 or 7 and working towards a career, even if it was in a slightly roundabout, slightly weird way. So I don't think I am particularly famous. I don't think there has been a huge amount of success. I'm very lucky. I've got 5 albums I'm really proud of, and a few TV shows, and some great concerts and venues. And the best thing for me is that I'm somehow able to learn this music and then perform it and do what I've always dreamed of doing since I was a kid.
You've been very open about talking about mental illness, and I wondered whether that has an impact on how you perform and how you give concerts.
I think as a rule it's always better to be open than closed, and that includes on stage and off stage. So I suppose I would hope anyone coming to see me on stage would think and if they met me afterwards, would think I'm the same on and off. So I don't generally handle pressure terribly well. I'm like all of us. Anyone who has been diagnosed with a mental illness or a number of mental illnesses are susceptible to, I think, long stretches working alone, punctuated by a couple of hours of high pressure on your own on a stage with critics and cameras and recording devices. So, things could potentially go horribly wrong. And actually, maybe that is one thing that I get slightly nervous about, in addition to the memory thing, is, what if things do go horribly wrong on stage? Well, am I going to be able to deal with that? And the answer is, I'm sure I will. We can deal with much more than we think we can, I think. And, there are lots of things with nerves in particular that can be done to help. And almost all of it is in here. Almost all of it is self-talk and realising that they're on your side, the audience, they're there, they want to have a good time. And when I'm on stage, I remember a friend of mine who's a very, very successful pianist saying to me, if you're coming up to a difficult bit, a bit you've struggled with, he would say, just smile. Like, literally force yourself to smile, take a breath, and remember that, in 1,000 years, that place isn't going to be there anymore. It's really not that important. And breathing is really important. And also, I do take drugs before a concert sometimes. Propranolol is really good. The physiological symptoms of nerves can be really debilitating. The sweats and the dry mouth and the shaking hands and the shaking feet as well. Try pedaling when your legs are shaking. It's impossible. So, and that's something that most musicians won't talk about. They either won't admit to doing it, or they'll come down on it really hard and say, no, you must never do it, because then it's not you playing, it's the drugs, all of which is absolute bullshit. It doesn't change anything about your mental state. It's a purely physiological thing that it changes. It deals with a kind of huge amount of adrenaline that's flowing through your system, and it helps me handle that. So, anything that works, you should do, is my mind. I really think that's what, anything you find that can help you achieve your goals, which will always be, for me, and has to be, giving the best account of these pieces I possibly can, then I'll do it. If that means using music, I'll do it. If it means taking beta blockers or other meds, I'll do it. If it means wearing jeans and a t-shirt, I'll do it. It doesn't matter. It has to be about the music and nothing else. Yeah, if you don't need to, fantastic, lovely, brilliant. But, if you do, then go for it. If I have a cold, I'll take Nurofen cold and flu. I take what I need to when I need to, and that's that. Obviously, if you're straying into kind of John Ogden land, when you're just, absolutely muzzled chemically and taking so many drugs that you can barely function. Do you remember that story of him playing the Emperor Concerto? I think it was at the Proms, or maybe it wasn't. And after the big opening, when he's playing his piano, in the exposition, when the orchestra was playing, he fell asleep. He fell asleep at the piano, on stage, in the middle of the bloody Emperor. Someone had to come poke him and wake him up before he came in again. Obviously, if it gets to that stage, it's not particularly helpful. But, a couple of propranolol is not the end of the world, I don't think.
So how does it feel to you when everything's going really well on stage?
I was going to say I'll let you know when I find out when that happens, but, it has happened. It happens for stretches. It happens for seconds, sometimes minutes. If I'm very lucky, 10-minute stretches. And I think that's why I kill myself practicing, and it's the greatest feeling in the world. There's something so incredibly liberating about it, and so extraordinary. I imagine it must be like marathon runners feel when they kind of punch through that wall that everyone talks about, and then they just hit their stride and they're flying, and time disappears and everything is okay, and that for me, it's the greatest thing ever. I don't know if I'm ever going to have a whole concert where it feels like that, but just for those few minutes that come, and sometimes come back during the same concert, it's extraordinary. That's what I keep chasing, like some kind of demented moth running into a light bulb all the time. I keep doing it because one day I'm going to get there for the whole duration of a concert, and then, I can die happy.
James Rhodes, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
You too.